On this episode of ResiWeek, 3 ways to value yourself, SnapAV acquires HCA, and embracing vinyl. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 270, Value Yourself.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Access Networks.
Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matthew Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week we're pleased to be joined by 3 of my good friends. First, we have Katie McGregor-Bennett. She is the president of KMB Communications. How you doing, Katie?
I'm doing fabulous. It's fine Monday morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. It started to rain, but other than that, I'm doing fine.
Here too. Here too.
Then we have my new friend, Catherine Wheeler. She is the area sales manager for SnapAV. How you doing, Kat?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. And last but certainly not least is Seth Johnson. He is the software development manager for Blackwire Designs. How you doing, Seth?
Doing well. How are you?
I am doing really well. It's a good day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's kick this off with a story that comes to us from CE Pro. Pete Baker writes a fantastic article on 3 ways to make sure you are receiving proper value for your experience. He mentions a LinkedIn post that he did just the other day that had over 75,000 views about a story of a ship with an engine problem. There seem to be a lot of things with ships and engines and canals and other things like that. Long story short, the engineer shows up, takes a hammer, hits the thing, after a second, charges 20 grand and says, well, the bill is, $2 for the tap with the hammer. The rest is the experience to know where to tap said hammer. Really good article. He covers a couple of key points. Essentially, establish your credibility, set the expectations properly, and don't be bashful. So first of all, go read the article. It's very good. Katie, let me start with you on this one. I've seen this story, this anecdote a couple of times. It's been around for a while. I totally agree with it. The question I have for you, though, is do we as an industry undervalue ourselves too often?
Intentional long pause.
Okay, I was concerned for a second.
That was for everybody else out there to go ahead and render your answer to that question. And I say, yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. And Matt, you and I have been talking about this for at least 10 years about it. It's endemic of our industry that we do undervalue the service that we do, the work that we do, and the expertise that we have. And it's kind of funny because it's the ship story, this has come around a few times. I think the last iteration had something to do with the building trade, and it might have been a deck, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, it was electrical. But I think it resonates every time it comes out, and I think it's just it's one of those things that we get so into the work that we do and the brilliance of what we do, but we also really do tend to get pinched by the consumer audience, by our trade partner audience, who doesn't really understand the full extent of what we're bringing to the table. And by us, and by we, I'm saying us as an integration community, as a manufacturer community, the community that supports the installation of products. And I think it's when the story comes around, we all get really excited about it, and we share it, and we're like, yeah, this is us, this is me, this is my problem, listen to me and hear me roar. But then the roar dies down, and we go back to doing exactly the same thing that we've been doing, or we attempt and we fail. And I think this is kind of the warning shot that comes out about once a year. If you really do need to take into consideration what you're charging and the value that you're bringing to the table, and start increasing your confidence in your pricing and eking it up. It's not easy. I'll be the first one to tell you I'm struggling with it. It's really hard when you want to bring a solid value to a project or to whatever you're involved in. When they start getting price pressures, the easiest thing to do is to acquiesce. It's harder to challenge that, and it's harder to put up the fight, but it's well worth it. And until we as a community all do, the harder it's going to be for the individual boats to rise.
Yeah, very, very good. It is. it's one of those things that always cracks me up. Because we've lived in this for so long, it just all seems easy. And we forget that for a lot of people, changing the input on a TV is complicated, and they need notes. Kat, the one thing that kind of hit me with this article that I have a hard time with is how you set expectations, because his second point is set those expectations properly in the beginning. And I've been in the business long enough to where no matter how many times I feel that I've set those expectations properly and the client understands what I'm saying, we very quickly discover they had no idea what that expectation was. How do you go about, is there a foolproof way to go and set those expectations?
I mean, I don't think anything is foolproof. We can try our best. I think the problem lies in the fact that we do this for a living. So when you say it's easy, I mean, easy is a relative word, but technology is more understandable to us. End users don't understand the complexities of it or what the end experience is going to be. So managing that expectation is the biggest challenge. But I think we live in a really interesting time in our industry right now, because we're doing something different these days with remote service calls that we didn't have 5-10 years ago, because we have systems now that allow our integrators to virtually go into customers' homes and troubleshoot systems and reboot things remotely or change things remotely in a way that they didn't have before. And some guys are doing that for free and some guys are charging for it. So there's opportunities that we have now that we never did before to give the end users a better experience at the end of the day. And hopefully people see the value in that and the value that they're providing.
Very good. Seth, I think the all-encompassing aspect of this is that there has to be value in what we do. And we know there's value in what we do, but it's hard to express that. What has to happen to raise the awareness of what we do to where it's at the same level as the other trades, the other industries that are out there that are very similar in skill set and knowledge base, obviously different directions, but nobody questions IT at $200 an hour. No one questions a plumber at $150 an hour. Yet you show up as a integrator and, dare I say, charge $100 an hour. It's like, all you're doing is hanging a TV. What has to happen to raise that awareness?
I don't know. I think this is a little bit easier than it. I don't know. I haven't been in this side of the industry for a while, so I feel like this conversation is easier today than it was 10 years ago. And maybe it's just the grind that we've all kind of fallen into over the past few decades, is establishing this industry, building up trade organizations around it, building up product and services to match match what we do. And I think it's just kind of like over time, like you mentioned a few other trades, right? You mentioned a plumber. They've been around a few thousand years. Like they have some credibility kind of stacked up against them. Electricians, at least 100 years that I can think of. Roofers, tradesmen who build homes, tile. I mean, these are 1,000-year-old type businesses. And here we are waltzing in the door 30 years ago at the most, maybe 40, if you really start looking back. We're the new kid on the block. And I think it's just a matter of time before we do have that clout. Is that a word I guess I could use here for that built up like the electricians and everyone else do? And I think it's, at least from my experience these days, is that expectation that we're a fourth trade on the job site, the carpenter, the plumber, the electrician. Oh, and you need an AV guy too. Like that expectation is more often than not, especially on the higher end homes, is usually has been there, at least in the last couple of years that I was involved.
Yeah, very good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move to our next story of the day. This comes to us from Residential Systems. SnapAV has acquired HCA Distributing in Denver and Salt Lake. Read through this. This brings the SnapAV footprint up to 27 stores now across the U.S. Kat, I'm obviously really happy you're here to talk about this. What pushed, like, we know that there's been a strong push from Snap to have physical locations pretty much throughout most markets. What pushed or what caused the push into the Salt Lake and Denver regions?
I think if there's one thing you can say about SnapAV from its inception, they're extremely customer centric. So having a local footprint allows us to provide better customer service in more ways than we can just by being an e-commerce site. So we're actually up to 29 locations now, which is pretty exciting. And you can do different things for our customers with that local site. So we can do local trainings when we can do that. We can do delivery to job sites, which is huge for some customers. We can do 24-hour will call, which is pretty amazing. So we're just able to reach more people and be of more service than we can in any other way. So there's more to come.
I love it. Seth, when you see this, we're seeing a weird dichotomy in distribution these days. There are quite a few distributors that seem to be having trouble. We talked about it last week that one of the major Canadian ones folded, and now everyone is struggling to find locations to purchase that line card now. In the States, there's a variety. There's a bunch of really thriving distributors and a bunch of struggling distributors. I don't ever remember a time when that gap was so large. What is causing that disruption? Is it all just pandemic related?
I don't know. I suspect pandemic has something to do with it. Also, the ever ongoing trade issues that we have with picking up gear these days. I think everyone is feeling that now and will be for the next couple of months. No, I don't really have any idea there. I know that when I dealt with SnapAV as a dealer, one of their core tenants, they were a great company to work with, and you could always show up and ask somebody there at SnapAV a question and they'd have an answer for you. It's usually pretty good. And I think that type of service, and certainly Blackwire, plug us too, we're trying to do that too. That type of service is what really separates everyone else from maybe another distributor. I don't know what really is the key differentiator between the companies that are disappearing and the ones that are going strong.
Yeah, very good. Katie, when you see this, there's a handful of distributors. I know when I got into the biz, especially on the residential side, there really wasn't a national distributor, with the exception of maybe ADI. Now there are 3 or 4. What has pushed that to that national level?
A couple of things. I mean, if you go into the Wayback Machine, there were a few nationals, but they weren't necessarily, at least for the custom installation side of the world, there wasn't really a great go-to source to serve the needs of the custom installer. There was Tetra. There was the original Volutone, and there were other sort of regional guys, but there weren't any guys and gals. But there weren't any companies that really had that nationwide footprint or had the ability to scale up. I'm sure I'm missing elements of history in here, but ultimately, what I went through and what I saw happening was mergers and acquisitions, right? So, Avid went on its buying spree, and gobbled up a lot of the regionals and rolled those up into a singular nationwide entity. And I think that was kind of the beginning of it. For the smaller custom integrator or the smaller installer, that opened up the ability to get access to product lines that they hadn't had an opportunity to reach before. The smaller volume, not necessarily able to buy direct. So distribution is the way to go. But if you don't have a distributor that carries the mainstream bands your customers are looking for, there was a period of time where you kind of were stuck in between a rock and a hard place. And that certainly is no longer. And I think we'll continue to see this. The mergers and acquisitions will obviously continue. But I think that we haven't seen the end of this one yet, for sure.
You don't say. All right, let's mark that down. Yeah. Someone will buy another company at some point in the near future. I don't believe it. All right, let's wrap this up with our final story of the day. This also comes to us from CE Pro and our friend Bob Archer. An integrator in New York says it's time for the industry to rediscover vinyl records. Franklin Karp of New York's Audio Video Systems is recommending that integrators sell turntables to take advantage of the format's re-emergence. I am in full favor of this because I love vinyl, as Kat laughs at me because I politely showed one of my Mariah Carey records. Yes. And
No,
see, proudly.
You did, yes.
Proudly. I pulled it out. Yes, it's not a good one, but I still have it. I wish I had some other ones, but notwithstanding. And yeah, you thought I wasn't going to talk about that. You were wrong. I'm going to bring that out.
You're just disarming us. Now we can't shame you with it. We're going to do better.
there is a method to my madness. I know what Seth was thinking. He's like, oh, just wait. I'm going to get him. Vinyl has really shockingly emerged. I know that in my personal business, the number of clients I have that are buying vinyl has gone through the roof the last, 5 years. Seth, when you see this, I'm of two minds with this. I love it from a, business expansion side, from a love of music side. I'm concerned with it from a one-trick pony side. Is this something that you can, or let me rephrase this. How do you effectively leverage vinyl, knowing that in most situations it is a one-time purchase? Unless they're buying records from you, and I am not really endorsing getting into the record selling business. But most people who buy turntables, they buy a turntable, they might buy a second one. They're not putting a turntable in every room. They're not putting a turntable outside. They're buying one and then they're listening to records. It's a one-time sale.
Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those products that is pretty specialized. I think it's a great idea to be able to offer this, especially with the increase in sales. I don't know what's driving that. I'm not a very big. I'm more of a convenience over listening experience.
You're so
type
young.
Person. I know.
You're so young.
Am I naive? I don't get the tea ceremony that goes along with like bringing the vinyl over in your gloves and setting it on. I'm not that kind of person. I'd rather just hit play, and be entertained. But I do get why people like it, and I understand why people like it, and I don't think it's a bad idea just to be able to have that in your back pocket. There's no reason to leave money on the table, especially in today's world. I mean, you can sell the record player. You're just not going to sell the receiver to match it these right now. So just get that in the door.
Yeah, that's a good point. Katie, this is one of those things, and I know you work with Leon, and Leon is fairly big in the experience of music. And I will happily admit that every one of my clients that has a turntable, they may have it in a media room. It doesn't matter. They still go in there and they experience that record. They're not just putting something on in the background to play music. They're experiencing that record. They're opening it up. They're unfolding it. They're talking about it with their friends. It's an experience.
The tea ceremony.
Stop it. We're going to ban you.
Mute that guy.
Mute that guy. Gosh, some people. Florida man yells at vinyl. Is this one of those things where if someone hasn't heard it, not like Seth, but if someone is negative on it, like Seth, how do you go about properly explaining it? Or like, do you put together a demo kit to take to your clients and, set up if people get it, they buy it. When people don't get it, they're like Seth.
I can swing the mic over to myself now before Seth just leaves and never comes back.
Okay, digital is better.
Love you, Seth.
Digital is better. I'm throwing it out there.
Okay, we're not here to disagree or debate that one.
Well, I am now.
I know. I'm just trying to save your show, man.
It's fine. I lost it a while ago. It's good. As soon as I pulled the Mariah Carey record out, they're like, "Yep, we're done." This guy. Go ahead.
This guy. We still have more to talk about on Mariah Carey album, but so I think there's a couple of things here, and I think that there's I challenge the notion of it's a one-time sale, so therefore maybe we shouldn't get behind it, because there's a lot of that in the industry, and you could even say that a software solution like D-Tools, for instance, that's a one-time sale too. But are we going to not do proper system design? Au contraire, no, we're not. I think it just comes down to that central line of meeting your customer where they are. So if you serve a market and you serve a clientele that is interested in audio, that is interested in the experience, that enjoys a good tea ceremony on a Saturday afternoon with a gathering of friends, that was for you. I think that there's you need to meet your customer where they are, but be true to your brand. If you're not an audio centric company, if you don't have a good way to demo, if you don't, you just don't serve that clientele, or honestly, and be true to yourself, you just don't care. Cool. Don't get into that category. But there is a market for it out there, and there's a lot that shows that the next generation and beyond is actually really interested in this. I don't know that they're ever going to get the tea ceremony aspect of it, because music came around differently for them. There never was a need to touch the tone arm in such a way that you recollect that moment when you first heard that bit of music, and the state of mind you might have been in the 70s when you first heard that bit of music. There's a whole lot that goes along with that ceremonial component to vinyl that a generation was part of, and it was really big to them, and they're now passing that down to their kids, to their kids, to their kids. If that's important to you, cool, get behind it, sell it. If it's not, don't. But also just stay out of it, right? So if you don't appreciate it, don't ruin it for others. But I think it's just that it's that thing. Just don't shy away from it because it might be perceived as a one-time sale. It's just meet your customers where they are and be true to your brand. If it fits your model and you can make some money on it, and you provide your customers an experience that they can pass along, that's awesome. That's how I see it.
I like it. Seth, did you catch that? Stay out of it if you're not a fan.
Hey, I think you should sell it if you can work it into the project. Sell it if you can work it in. It all depends on what your level of what you want to do for entertainment is, and if the client just wants to press a button, this may not be the product for them. But if they want to go through the tea ceremony, or they just want to have a different listening experience that they can show off, it's a great product for that. Absolutely.
Why don't you like tea?
It's the tea ceremony.
All right, Kat.
Tea is great.
When you see this, the one big plus for me is, yes, most times you will only sell one record player unless they're really big and they're going to wear it out and they're going to come back and get something better down the road. When you get somebody into vinyl, typically when they get serious, they get serious. The add-ons to vinyl supersede any other residential vertical I've ever seen.
Yeah,
is that
for sure? I mean, because you say it's a one-time sale, and I would say that maybe, I seriously doubt it, but it's not a one-item sale. Because to have that visceral experience that you talk about with audio and accurate audio and that whole unique experience you get from vinyl, you need proper speakers, proper cables, proper components, and those are very profitable items for our channel. And I would argue that when you have a customer that you can deliver that kind of emotional and positive experience to, they're a customer of yours for life. And anything that they choose to do down the road that has anything to do with electronics at all, they're going to come to you because you were able to deliver such a powerful experience to them. At the end of the day, that's what we do, right? We give the right experience to the end user the way they desire it. And to do that isn't just selling a record player. There's a lot that you need to go into that to make that experience great.
Yeah, very good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will leave it there before Seth offends anybody else who's a big record head or a tea drinker.
Or Mariah Carey fan. I mean,
I don't think you can offend Mariah Carey fans because they're Mariah Carey fans. We've been around long enough. It happens.
Oh, you noticed he put himself in that grouping.
I did. I'll own it. It's all good. It is what it is. All right, Kat, if people want to connect with you, learn more about SnapAV, where can they do that?
Obviously, to learn more about SnapAV, it's snapav.com. For me, it's catherine.wheeler@snapav.com.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us. Seth, my friend, thanks for being a good sport today. If people want to connect with you, get some snacks from Blackwire Design, where can they do that?
Yeah, you can head over to blackwiredesigns.com and check us out, all the products we offer there and software we offer there. We're both hardware and software on our site.
Fantastic. Thank you, my friend. Last but certainly not least, Katie, my friend, if people want to connect with you, learn more about KMB, where can they do that?
Well, of course, after they go and select their favorite vinyl and put it down and do a little tea ceremony, then while you're listening to that fabulous background music, you can go to the Googles and just look for Katie, Katye, McGregor, McGregor, Bennett. You will find me. I have all sorts of different handles depending on when I got on the platform and where I was in my married life. You'll find me.
The best part is that no one does anything else when they listen to vinyl. You put it down and you sit and you mellow and you absorb the music. I have kids. I don't get to do that anymore. Thank you again for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please visit avnation.tv, where you'll find this show, as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.